Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Minecraft update video. This is Snapshot 20W08A for Minecraft 1.21.5. And I know exactly what you're thinking. Oh my god, what is that? Yes, I am a rat! I've been enjoying my game Tunnel Rats so much that I've now even got a rat skin to celebrate. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd recommend this video on the channel. Of course, watch it after this snapshot. And yes, I am of course going to tell you what I'm holding right here, which are new spawn eggs. First of all, we're going to use some to spawn in some sheep. This is because Mojang has listened to the community feedback. I read lots of comments in my own comment section about these colors: red, yellow, orange, blue, cyan, and light blue. None of these sheep will now naturally spawn in the world in any of the different biomes. So here in a warm biome, there's only going to be 5 different types of sheep that can spawn. The most common one is brown. The others that are uncommon are white, light grey, grey, and black. This will be the same in cold biomes, except black will be the common color, with light grey, grey, white, and brown being the uncommon colors to find. There is still a very rare chance of a pink sheep spawning naturally in any of the biomes. I neglected to mention the same colors apply to a temperate biome, so white will be the common color here, with light grey, grey, black, and brown being the uncommon colors. And if you haven't spotted the other change to the sheep, well, you need to pay closer attention. These sheep no longer have a trim of white around their faces. Look, they now have the color of the wall that they are. Just in case you think I'm going mad, here's a screen grab from last week's snapshot. See, they got white wall around their face. This change has been done to create parity with the Bedrock edition of the game. So let's go ahead and now shear the sheep, and look at that, it's got speckles of the color that it is. Now previously, you wouldn't be able to see these colorful speckles, and you wouldn't know what color sheep it was until it regrew its wool. We've also got like the black around the leg and the head as well. And I'm going to say it, but the pixels here just look a little harsh, and I think how it worked before on Java was the better way to do it. I also like the idea you couldn't see the color until it regrew its wool. I think they should have done the parity swap here the other way around. Another thing sheep can do is now eat ferns as if it were grass to regrow their wool, just like they can on Bedrock. Anyways, what do you think of these changes? Leave a comment down below. I'm very curious to see if y'all like this or not. Alright, next we're going to talk about the new spawn eggs. You've seen a couple of them already. I've probably plastered these over the thumbnail of this video. These are honestly quite amazing. Let's go and have a look. Like some absolutely fantastic textures here to show off all the different mobs in the game. Previously, they were just color-coded, and a few of these stand out, and you might remember that this is the Phantom, which is, of course, the absolute best mob in the game. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever, and they certainly don't make a bunch of hideous sounds. Despite this having that quirky Minecraft charm, you could definitely look at it and say it's not the best system visually, especially if you're colorblind as well. That probably makes it even harder to fish out the correct spawn egg. Of course, you can type in the name to search for the exact one you want to, but the point is, visually, this is just undeniably better. We are now going to go through all of these 3 at a time so that you can see them a little closer up, but also you can see the name of each of these, because this is not a epic diamond chestplate like I first thought. So as we go through these, I'm going to point out some observations, like egg size is a really cool thing they've done here. The bee and the bat are a lot smaller than the blaze, for example. I'll also share some opinions about some of these textures. I'd say so far so good, but you'll notice that they've tried to avoid eyes. However, we will see them with some mobs, and technically you see them on the eyes of this cave spider here. Now, the creaking spawn egg is wild, the cow's pretty decent, but the cod one, a common theme with these watery ones is that they have this blue silveriness at the bottom, and sometimes they just don't look quite right to me. Like the dolphin, for example. I get it, but it doesn't always work. Anyway, let's talk about the one spawn egg they had to get right, and they did. The creeper spawn egg, putting the face on it like that, that's the best way to do it. So the Drowned wasn't classified as a watery mob. It doesn't have the blue silver around the bottom, but the Elder Guardian does. Fortunately, I think this one is already quite distinctive. Now here we have 3 spawn eggs that all share the same color palette, so size really helps distinguish the Endermite from the other 2, and I like the way they've used more particle effects around the Enderman so you can tell it apart from the Ender Dragon. Now the Evoker and family of Pillager and Villager mobs, they all have this really weird dusty fisheye lens look about them, which I'll point out as we see more of them. For me, the ghast is one of the worst spawn eggs because it just doesn't have enough distinction about it to say it's a ghast. It feels quite generic. And when it comes to the watery mobs, I think the glow squid is actually my favorite of all of them. Another good one is the guardian spawn egg. I don't think you need the water around the bottom here. It's really obvious what it is from the offset. Now, the husk lacks quite a bit of distinction. I think it almost looks like an egg that a chicken would plop down, and the iron column spawn egg just looks a little bit cursed to me. The mushroom egg almost looks the same as it did before. It's actually got little ears on it that's hard to see because of the checkered background. And the mule looks quite similar to the horse, as you would expect, and there's actually quite a few that sort of share similar characteristics amongst the animals. But one of those they got 100% right was the parrot spawn egg. This has got to be one of my favorite of all of them. Then we have a couple of bad examples here. The piglin brute and the regular piglin next to each other. They're just a little too hard to distinguish at a glance. All right, we've got another watery one here. The pufferfish. I mean, we know exactly what it is. I'm just not 100% sold on this watery thing. There's another one here, but I'm done commenting about it. Let's look at the Ravager spawn egg. There is no shadow of a doubt which mob that is. The shulker is really good, and the silverfish is pretty decent. The little spokes that come out of it are actually kind of hard to see in the Minecraft inventory. Okay, now two bad ones. The skeleton horse and skeleton, they both kind of lack a little bit of distinction. I think they actually tried to put the eyes of the skeleton on this one down the bottom here, but they just look a little too similar to each other. The sniffer, spawn egg, and snow golem ones are just fantastic. The spider one ain't too bad either. The squid is a little odd, as is the stray, but I think they did a great job with the strider spawn egg. And then two more watery ones here, which I think are kind of okay. But the trader llama, you definitely know what mob that is. And then the turtle and vex spawn eggs, pretty fantastic. The villager looks a little bit cursed. It's those big noses. It just doesn't quite work for me. However, the warden spawn egg, that one's fantastic. Then we got one of those cursed witches and two wither spawn eggs that look really similar to one another. Here we have the wolf, the zoglin, and the zombie horse. This one, it's kind of a mob that you forget about, so it might not be immediately obvious what it is. The zombie spawn egg is fantastic, and the zombified piglin looks a little bit like the zoglin spawn egg. When we group them together like this, it might become a bit more apparent some of the difficulties of distinguishing some of these mobs apart from one another. And I wanted to put the wither spawn eggs in here, but for some reason, only the skeleton shows up. I am 100% sure we're going to see some revisions to these textures, so of course leave your feedback down below. It seems that Mojang are very active in figuring out what the community want these days. And although I might have focused a little too much on critical feedback, I think the general vibe here is really, really good, and I'm impressed with these textures. They are, for the most part, really great. Okay, this brings us to leaf litter, which I'm going to place down and look at. For the first time, no, we've seen this in previous snapshots. Leaf litter now has its own color mapping, which means it can change its tint based on what biome it's in. This is something that leaf blocks do, for example. And so far, I wouldn't really notice the difference there. Maybe we need to go somewhere really cold to see this. Oh, that's clearly darker, yeah. Yeah, a lot of the color's been desaturated from that. Let's then go to the other end of the spectrum, a warm biome. Here it feels more yellowy. It's kind of tricky to tell because these biomes aren't immediately next to each other. Anyways, if we look at the leaf litter texture change here, you can see it's been grayscaled so that its color comes from the biome tint. And this right here is the spectra of color that can be applied to that gray texture. It doesn't look like the change in color is really going to be that big of a deal. But I thought of a way I might be able to show you this much clearer, so I'll work on that in between snapshot videos. So come back next week and maybe we'll see that in better detail. This is me doing a plug. If you want to subscribe, that would be amazing. Thanks for considering. Let's now crack on with the video. All right, I thought it'd be cool to find some wolves just hanging out, naturally spawned, but I'm going to spawn some in with a spawn egg. These wolves are now going to have a random personality assigned to them. Looking into the game files, we can see that there's angry, big, cute, grumpy, Puglin, and Sad. These are the names of their new personalities. These personalities, however, are just sounds. They're going to have an ambient, a hurt, a deaf, a growl, a whine, and a pant sound. And none of these variants are going to be related to the texture that they have. And of course, the original wolf sounds still exist. They were listed as classic. So those were the new wolf sounds, and if you ask me, some of those were pretty intense. It should be noted that lots of these things that have been added are now data-driven, so we've got all new textures for the spawn eggs, and all of the wolf variant files are data-driven too. And there were 3 bug fixes, but I can't go into further detail because it seems like the bug tracker is actually down at the moment. They had migrated to the new bug tracker, but it doesn't seem to be loading as of the time of recording this video. However, when it comes to the shields bug, it looks like what they've done is they've made this data-driven now. So if you want to define types of damage that the shield can bypass, you can do that with a data pack. It is certainly cool to see more and more of the game becoming data-driven. But aside from that, what did you think of today's snapshot? Leave a comment down below. Of course, make sure you subscribe to catch next week's one. And go check out that Tunnel Rats game if you haven't seen it already. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon or another. Bye-bye.